What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Warlocks. I'm Profane, thanks for checking out the video. With Edge of Fate releasing in just a few weeks, I wanted to take an opportunity to address a couple of upcoming Warlock builds that are going to outright dominate the battlefields of this new expansion. As to be expected with any big expansion, we'll be getting several quality of life updates, as well as sandbox changes, which is going to impact the performance of several weapons, exotics, and abilities. So today we're going to highlight 3 different exotics and builds that any Warlock will be able to rely on to get through even the hardest of activities in Edge of Fate. And we start with the Starfire Protocol, which is getting an impressive rework. Fusion Harness will now activate off of weapon hits when radiant, when standing in an empowering rift, and when inside a well of radiance. This provides a 20% passive increase to the base regeneration rate of our fusion grenades, and it provides us with 1 additional grenade charge, and in Edge of Fate we're going to be able to let those grenades fly. As we land hits on targets, we will gain 5% bonus grenade energy, but that will incur a 0.4 second cooldown between activation. In addition to bonus energy on hit, we will gain 15% bonus grenade energy after defeating enemies with any weapon. When factoring in the added benefits that our new artifact will provide, the Starfire Protocol is about to have a massive resurgence in its performance. The final benefit that this exotic provides is that after securing fusion grenade final blows, we will gain a full recharge of our class ability energy, and that's going to allow us to focus our armor towards stats like health, grenades, and weapons. By focusing towards the grenade stat, we can reduce the base cooldown of our grenade energy to as little as 24 seconds. We can increase how much energy we gain from any source of bonus energy, and once we've pushed beyond 100 points, we will be able to increase our grenade damage by as much as 35%. So not only will we be able to continuously spam fusion grenades, but we're gaining a massive increase in our overall damage output. And if we can apply similar focus towards our weapon stat and push it beyond 100, we will gain as much as a 15% increase in weapon damage against rank and file enemies, and as much as a 9% bonus in damage to heavy weapons against boss level enemies, which will stack alongside bonuses like Radiance and Weapon Surge mods. It'll be easier than ever to activate Radiance, since one of our new artifact mods called Fever and Chill will grant Radiance after landing consecutive precision hits with any solar weapon. That's going to allow us to be much more mobile whenever using Starfire Protocol, which will be a very nice change of pace, and when using the solar subclass, it frees us up in terms of fragments, because we no longer need to use Ember of Torches to be able to gain Radiance. When it comes to solar aspects, Touch of Flame and Heat Rises are what I expect to be the most beneficial combination. Hellion turrets are an incredible option for automated damage, but they do not count as weapon damage, so they are going to get in the way of your opportunity to activate Starfire Protocol. Touch of Flame will provide our fusion grenades with a secondary detonation, and that's going to deal 904 points of base damage, and since we have 2 grenade charges, we could consume the first to be able to activate Heat Rises. That's going to trigger a burst of Cure, but when we perform a Phoenix Dive, we'll trigger Restoration, and if we pair that up with Ember of Empyrean, we'd be able to prolong the benefits of Radiance and Restoration. So as long as we stay engaged in combat, we're going to be an unstoppable fire god. Ember of Benevolence will be another great fragment to use, but only when you are running activities with teammates, as this will provide a 400% bonus to the regeneration of all 3 of your abilities. And that's going to happen whenever we provide teammates with Cure, Radiance, and Restoration, but this also activates off of revives, and whenever healing teammates, so it gives us the potential to significantly overcharge our grenade use. If you are running as a solo player, then I would recommend changing Benevolence out for Solace, which would double the base duration of Radiance and Restoration, making it easier to maintain their benefits. Fusion grenades do apply Scorch, so with Ember of Ashes we will double the amount of Scorch stacks that get applied to enemies, which will help us trigger ignitions much faster. And with Ember of Char, ignitions will spread Scorch to any enemy that's hit by the explosion. We mentioned already that Fever and Chill will be a powerful artifact mod to use, but there's also Cauterized Darkness, which will increase solar damage against enemies who are debuffed with Stasis or Strand. There's also Radiant Shrapnel, which will create tiny solar projectiles that will apply additional damage and even scorch enemies, and that's going to happen as we land sustained weapon damage. There's also Shield Crush, which will be a great mod for grenade-focused builds. When we have Radiance active, this provides a passive increase in grenade damage and regeneration, providing us with 25% bonus regeneration and 25% bonus damage. What I like most about this exotic and how it's going to function in Edge of Fate is that it's going to be cohesive with a wide range of weapons, and you're not going to be tied to a single spot. You're going to be able to freely move around the battlefield. There's a lot of powerful solar exotics that you could use with this build, like Polaris Lance, the Sunshot, or Finality's Augur. But there's also a lot of powerful legendary weapons that offer perks like Incandescent, Demolitionist, or Heel Clip. There's also support framed weapons, so this will most definitely be a top tier build for Warlocks to use, not only for damage but for ad clear and support. The next build that you'll want to have at the ready is a Strand build featuring the Mobalytics. This would be a great exotic to use on the Prismatic subclass, where we would have Devour and Radiance active at the same time, but with some of the changes to abilities, aspects, and armor, I think it's going to be an especially powerful option with the base Strand subclass. It comes with an intrinsic trait that grants your arcane needles with the intrinsic ability to pierce barrier shields. Most barrier champions will have their shields broken with one needle, but in tougher activities it could take 2 to 3. When you strike an enemy with arcane needles, they will become marked, and when those marked enemies are defeated, they will create a suspending detonation. Whenever you strike a marked target with 2 more arcane needles, a larger detonation will be instantly triggered, so you've got the potential here to continuously trap enemies in a perpetual loop of suspensions. Arcane needles apply Unravel onto targets, which applies continuous strand damage over 8 seconds, and with up to 3 charges to use, we'll be able to deal out a lot more sustained damage. And to make the deal even sweeter, this exotic provides bonus melee energy whenever defeating suspended enemies, and enemies with arcane needles. The stronger the enemy, the more energy, maxing out at 100% against any high value target like a champion or mini-boss. And with the other components of this build adding in extra energy, we'll have our arcane needle recharging in less than 33 seconds. If we focus our character stats towards melee, we will gain a significant increase to the regeneration of our arcane needle, and by exceeding 100 points, we would give our needles as much as a 15% increase in damage. We have several new artifact mods that will greatly improve the performance of strand-based builds. With the Tightly Woven mod active, we will gain bonus stats towards both Grenade and Super whenever Woven Mail is active, which will free us up to apply more focus into melee, health, and weapons. With the Thread of Warding Fragment equipped, we will trigger Woven Mail whenever we collect an orb, and with Thread of Wisdom, we will create orbs when defeating suspended enemies, creating a nice loop of continuous damage resistance and bonus character stats. With the Tangled Web artifact mod equipped, defeating strand debuffed enemies will create a suspending blast. This is only going to happen when tangles are created, but this will greatly increase our productivity with the Mobalytics, allowing us to trap even more enemies, providing us with a ton of extra energy in the process. With Threaded Blast equipped, we'll create a strand explosion whenever destroying tangles, and this will have a secondary blast that will deal additional damage. The benefits of the Shield Crush artifact will carry over into this build, as we'll gain 25% bonus melee energy and 25% bonus melee damage whenever Woven Mail is active, which directly improves the performance of this exotic, and that should contribute to this build's standout success throughout Edge of Fate. When it comes to exotic weapons that you'll want to consider using with this build, the Quicksilver Storm and the Final Warning are 2 of the best primary options. Otherwise, the Euphony would be a great alternative. And since it regenerates melee energy on hit, the Monte Carlo would also be a solid choice. In terms of legendary weapons, we want to keep an eye out for strand weapons that come with Slice, Tear, and Hatchling. And since this is a melee-focused build, perks like Grave Robber, Attrition Orbs, and Pugilist would be terrific options. The final standout Warlock build that we'll look at today is a Stasis build that revolves around the use of the rime-coat raiment. This exotic's intrinsic trait, called Bleak Domain, enhances the functionality of our Bleak Watcher turret. Turrets will stand higher off the ground, and once they've been created, they will build stasis crystals all around its perimeter. When the turret is active, a stasis storm will cover a 5-meter radius that will continuously rebuild stasis crystals, and when enemies pass through these storms, they will get slowed and frozen. But when you stand inside the storm, you will create a small stasis buddy that launches stasis projectiles at enemies. Those projectiles will apply stacks of slow, but once you've stepped outside of the storm, those buddies will vanish after 2 seconds. By pairing Bleak Watchers with Ice Flare Bolts, we'll be able to expand the potency of our turret and our ability to control the battlefield, as this will create additional Seekers that freeze nearby enemies whenever we shatter frozen targets. This build provides incredible benefits in terms of crowd control, and it's even effective at handling Overload and unstoppable champs. The only drawback is that we don't get Radiance or Devour whenever using Stasis, and our Stasis Super and Melee rank in as some of the weakest options. But we do gain the benefits of Frost Armor, which we'll be able to keep active as long as we're engaged in combat, and we'll have a ton of stasis effects that slow and freeze enemies, along with plenty of crystals to destroy, which will deal out a ton of extra damage. Frost Armor will provide as much as a 31% bonus in damage resistance whenever it's at 5 stacks, but if we added in Whisper of Rime, we could increase that to 8 stacks, providing us with 50% bonus damage resistance. If at all possible, we would want to pair this build with stasis weapons that come with Rime Stealer, and if we had Headstone or Chill Clip, we could extend on our ability to slow and freeze large groups of enemies. Since we have Fever and Chill as an available artifact mod, we should consider using a mixture of stasis and solar weapons. We'll gain Radiance from solar weapons, but by landing multiple precision hits with stasis weapons, we'll grant ourselves with extra stacks of Frost Armor. When it comes to stasis fragments, we are using Whisper of Rime, but we're also using Whisper of Shards for the 500% bonus in grenade regeneration. It starts as a 6-second bonus, but it's going to reactivate every time we destroy a stasis crystal. Whisper of Torment will serve as an additional option to create grenade energy, as it's going to provide us with this energy whenever we take damage. It does come with a 1-second cooldown between activations, but it's going to grant us with 7% bonus energy, and when Frost Armor is active, that gets bumped up to 12%. So we've got a lot of grenade energy coming back to us, and that's something that we need to consider whenever putting together the armor for this build. We would love our grenade stat to be at 100. This way we get the smallest cooldown and the maximum amount of return energy, but we don't need to worry about bonus grenade damage. So instead we can focus towards health and weapons. By focusing into weapons, we would give ourselves increased ammo drops, increased reload speed, and increased handling. And by surpassing 100 points, we could give ourselves as much as a 15% bonus in damage against rank and file enemies, and a 9% bonus in heavy damage against bosses. We mentioned Fever and Chill is a great artifact mod to pair with this build, but we've also got Frost Renewal and Frigid Glare as some powerful standouts. When Frost Armor is active and we take critical damage, a burst of stasis energy will be created, and that's going to freeze all nearby enemies. That burst of energy will grant you and nearby teammates with stacks of Frost Armor, so this could become a lifesaver in the right situation. And with Frigid Glare active, securing a precision final blow with a stasis weapon will create a burst of stasis energy that's going to slow nearby enemies, and that's going to amplify the performance of Whisper of Shards, Rime Stealer, and the rime-coat raiment. If you do include solar weapons with this build, then you're going to want to make use of the Cauterized Darkness mod. We mentioned this on the Starfire Protocol build, but this will increase any source of solar damage whenever it's used against enemies who are slowed or frozen. So this would go great with weapons like the Conditional Finality, Finality's Augur, and the Sunshot. And with that, you have yourself 3 incredible builds that all revolve around featured exotics. Exotics that will prove to be extremely powerful in Edge of Fate. So you'll want to be sure to have these builds at the ready whenever this new expansion launches. And you'll be able to find DIM and Mobalytics links for all 3 builds down in the description. And there's an incredible spreadsheet you can use to plan out your armor, and we have the Engineeeeer to thank for that. So be sure to check out that spreadsheet and check out their page here on YouTube, which I'll leave links for down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about these builds and what builds you'll be using when Edge of Fate starts. Let us know down in the comments. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.